to carry the torch. I refer to Dr. Snyder as the Socrates of hope, and I like to think of Dr. Lopez as the Plato of hope. When Dr. Snyder started doing his research, there was no existing research available on the psychology of hope. Because of him, he's laid the groundwork for other psychologists and other social scientists to study what actually hope is and how to measure it, and how to bring it about more in the world. Dr. Lopez did some wonderful work. He has since passed away. However, his work will last forever, and his work is extremely important. Dr. Lopez discovered that hope as a topic and hope as a measurable quality is more important to life, is more important to the development of a child, is more predictable for somebody's success in the world than any other measurable criteria. So whether it's IQ, family income, country of origin, racial background, social status, none of it has as much power of predicting whether or not somebody would be successful. And he measured this with GPA at the beginning. But the higher levels of hope a person had, the higher levels of success they would have in the world. The other findings he discovered in making hope happen, and through all of his research, is that hope is a learnable skill, which makes it a teachable skill, which makes it something that can be shared and fostered in environments, in workplaces, in schools, in families, in businesses. We can teach and we can learn and we can share hope with others. His tagline was always, if you have hope to spare, you have hope to share. So for the excessively hopeful people in the world, it's our duty to share our hopes with the other people that need it most. One of the problems I saw in America specifically and in the Western world has been an addiction to thought and an addiction to information. And maybe this presentation is a bit hypocritical on this stance that we're trying to solve issues on despair, and we're trying to solve issues in life with ones and zeros and with more thoughts and more words. And towards the end of the presentation, the solution might be a gravitation away from those things as we explore what makes a peaceful life, and where do we actually develop and foster hope. But it might be outside of computer screens, it might be outside of books, it might be outside of academic work, it might be outside of reading books altogether. However, we have to start from somewhere, and I have to communicate this somehow, so I'm limited maybe by my creativity at the moment, which brings me to the next book, The Power of Play. In 2007, Dr. Eklund released his book called The Power of Play, and his whole philosophy and what people are discovering in so many different ways is how important play is in the world, to where life may not find meaning, but it certainly finds enjoyment and fulfillment and tolerability when we have a playful spirit in the world, which leads me to lean very, very heavily into a sense of humor and to comedy to combat the current world of mental sickness we live in. There's a few other books that may be more personal for me. One is The Best Medicine Is You, which is just my own little excuse to avoid medicine. I think we're as a society, we're really looking for a magic pill, a magic solution, an easy button, but there's nothing easy about hope. Hope demands and requires us to be actively participating in making the world a better place, so we can't just sit back and take a pill to do that. Matthew Crawford was very influential on my understanding of the world through my very brief philosophical education at Catholic University of America, but this one book probably changed the way I see the world more so than any other book I've ever read in the last 20 years. I highly recommend taking a peek at it. It definitely influenced you to shut off your computer, turn off your cell phone, and go out and live in the real world. I was very, very grateful to have spent time at Catholic University. One of the reasons I decided to take the plunge and to explore religious formation was part of the deal was I was going to receive an education at Catholic University, but there was a very important person working at Catholic University. His name is Dr. David Jobs. He's one of the world's leading suicidologists, and he's right there on campus at Catholic U. one of his students, Emily Smith, released her own book, and she ended up giving a TED Talk. And what the suicidology world and what the world of psychologists have discovered through studying suicide is, in a contrarian way, they've discovered the meaning of life and where we find meaning in life, and most importantly, what makes meaning happen. Much like Dr. Lopez discovered how to make hope happen, Emily has really set the groundwork for how to allow organizations and societies and governments to make meaning happen. As a society, we've wasted a lot of time, and even in my own organization, I thought the key to community-based real estate was happiness. And I thought happiness was created if you could successfully manage your finances, if you could successfully manage your relationships, if you could successfully manage your physical health. That would make your mental health much better. And then if you could find other ways to make your mental health better, and really dive into your spiritual and philosophical health, you'd be a healthy, happy person. When I read Emily's book, and when I really started to see how futile that is of chasing those, I call it the gates of happiness. We can all set up our gates of happiness and try to set up our defenses with money and with relationships and with physical health, but diving into the religious world and seeing people show up for funerals, seeing monks and nuns and lay people die on a regular basis as just part of the religious duties, you notice and you're exposed to the fact that we can't hide behind our gates of happiness. Eventually, like a house of cards, they come tumbling down. The thing that saves us in life and the things that gives us hope and meaning in life is what Emily identifies in her book, The Power of Meaning, and she calls them the 4 pillars of meaning. The first one is community. It's no secret that our world is really struggling to provide healthy senses of community and a healthy community basis for people to be a part of. And when you're part of a community, the next most hope-bringing thing that happens that brings meaning into our lives is finding a sense of purpose. And Rick Warren released a book, maybe about 25 years ago, called The Purpose-Driven Life. The reason he, as a pastor, was so passionate about speaking about purpose and writing about purpose and helping people discover their purpose in life is because he had a son who died by suicide, and he realized his son was very much lacking a sense of purpose in the world. And we find our meaning in our purpose. So once you have a community, once you can provide value to that community or have a role in your community, you discover your purpose. And then from your purpose, you develop a story. We begin to tell our life story and our story in the world and where we fit in the world. And storytelling is a lost art as well that Emily talks about in her book. The last piece of finding a life of meaning is having some sort of transcendent experience. In her book, she mentions astronauts going to outer space and coming back down to Earth, having a completely different set of priorities, with having their paradigm about life and meaning and their role in life completely shifted in a very positive way. People have these experiences just out in Mother Nature. Oftentimes, mothers have it through childbirth. I had a transcendent experience traveling the world. I literally went around the world in a trip, and when I got back, I couldn't stop thinking about the millions and billions of people that are in these cities that I had been to as I went from Melbourne to Sydney, Australia, to Shenzhen, China, to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and I went to Athens, Greece, Istanbul, Turkey, and then Rome in Italy. And then I came back to New York City and then found myself in Tampa. And through that experience, the next few years, I couldn't stop thinking about how many millions and billions of people are on the world that are living their lives on a continual basis, having lives of struggle, having lives of joy, of happiness, and the whole gamut of human emotions. And my life is so small. Yet, even though it's so small, it can still have meaning if I have a sense of community, if I have a sense of purpose, and if I'm able to tell my story and recognize my story in a way that fits into the past and to the future. So the power of meaning really taps into what I think is at the heart of what it means to be pro-life. And it's supported by all this other research through psychology of hope,